We have Chris on today to share his story of dedication as he took care of his wife during her battle with Huntington's disease for the past 15 years. We are honored to have you on, Chris, and thank you for being here with us today.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. And if you guys are watching this video, it may be the afternoon or the evening, but it is morning for us today.
Thank God for coffee.
Oh, yes. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about you and Jackie's story. I want to hear kind of really the beginning.
Sure. So Jacque and I went to college together. We were not sweethearts in college, but we were very good friends. And we became romantically involved about 2 or 3 years after college. And we, like I said, we were very good friends, and remained friends in the same social circle. But shortly after she graduated, the light bulb clicked, seemingly, for both of us. And we started dating. We dated for a very short time before we got engaged. We got engaged on New Year's Eve, 1988, and got married on November 24th, 1990. So it was a fairly quick courtship, but since we were friends for so long, it kind of, once it clicked, it got locked in pretty fast.
Yeah, that foundation.
We did.
Oh, that's wonderful. When you guys were together, did you know about Huntington's disease in her family, or was that?
Not really. It was the late 80s when we were in college, and and got married in 1990. So Jacque was a little bit mysterious from the standpoint of she had a sick parent. She did not talk about her mother, who had HD, a lot. It was more about her father and the fact that he served in the military when you were getting to know her. We went to school. Her parents were living in Asheville at the time, and we were in the Charlotte area going to Belmont Abbey College. And so her parents never came to visit. And Jacque would go away by herself on weekends to see her mother, but all she really told people is that she was sick. So we didn't really know what the cause or the illness was. And then when we started dating, she was very reluctant to take me to Asheville to see her parents and meet her parents. And finally, I had to ask her, if we're going to be serious about each other, I'm going to need to meet your parents. And so she reluctantly agreed to take me to meet her parents, with a lot of education about the fact that I might be a little bit shocked by meeting her mother, and the fact that her mother at that time was not living at home anymore. I came to know that she was in a skilled nursing facility because her HD had progressed to the point that her family was no longer able to care for her at home. So my first experience with HD was kind of that mystery surrounding an affected parent and a child who didn't know really how to discuss it with somebody that they were, romantically, seriously involved with. Nor did we know the implications as far as, genetics and potential of how it might impact a family we might decide to have. So there was just a lot of mystery surrounding it in the late 80s.
So in a lot of way, you're kind of guesstimating your way into piecing together what was actually happening, what could be happening, what you're a little bit more in the dark.
Yes.
Than I think a lot of people are today.
Definitely. And I would say I'm glad we've come to the light, so to speak, because, it could have thrown me off the trail, so to speak, of pursuing that relationship, because there was so much mystery. And it wasn't Jacque trying to be untruthful or hide things from me. It was just her lack of knowledge and her father's lack of knowledge, and the people who were caring for her mother's lack of knowledge about what was going on. And, the implications beyond her mother's illness for the rest of the family and her children.
I have a question. Is there anything that you would change about that? Like how everything went? Is there something you would change knowing what you know now?
Well, if I could, I would have made available resources for Jacque to get better educated, and also to remove whatever stigma she felt about her mother's illness, and potentially the fact that she felt, guilty, or the fact that she felt like she had to hide it from people who cared about her. I think in a lot of ways she felt like it was her fault that she had a parent who was sick with HD. So I would remove all that kind of negative association. And I think, Lauren, in all honesty, the reason Jacque and I decided from day one to be so open about the fact that she was diagnosed with Huntington's was to remove any sort of stigma and any type of guilt or sense that this is something she did wrong and it's her fault that she had this disease. That's what I would change. That's what immediately leaps to mind when you ask that question.
Yeah, that's lovely. And you guys you were a lovely couple. I mean, I've seen you over the years, and beautiful woman and everything. I'm curious too, like, I know caregiving is hard. It's a hard place to be. How'd you do it for 15 years? Like how did you keep it going?
Well, it's a cliche, but one day at a time, really. A lot of HD caregiving is solving problems. And in a lot of cases, it's solve that day's problem, and tomorrow may be a better day. But also, as importantly, having excellent resources, finding people who can help and using them, in this every sense of that word, that if you're willing to help me, I'm going to hold you to it and make you help me. And I did that in a lot of cases. In some cases, I felt like, I'm being a pain in the ass to this person because I'm calling them for the 5th time today or something along those lines. But it's finding the resources and taking advantage of the resources, the people who want to help, because there's so much unknown, or at least there was for me. When Jacque was first diagnosed, I had no idea how I was possibly going to take care of her. And, I thought about it in terms of, 15 years from now, like, what's it going to look like? How am I going to afford this? How am I going to take care of her, make sure she gets the best of everything that I want her to have? And, I went to step 3,800 without going through step 1, step 2, step 3. So it's, not putting this big monolith of caring for my wife at the end, the day after she was diagnosed. It was figuring out, what am I going to do for her today? So really one step at a time, and taking advantage of the resources that are available, and really taking advantage of them, using them, because my goal was always to make sure she had the best care possible. And I knew I wasn't capable of doing that with what I had at the time she was diagnosed. No medical training, no psychological training, no pharmaceutical training, no training, period. So I knew I had to find people who could help me. And that's what I started doing. And I the day after she was diagnosed, after, I got over the initial shock, I went on Google and I Googled Huntington's disease, Charlotte. And I found a phone number for a man named Lee Epps who had a golf tournament. And I called him and I said, my wife was just diagnosed with Huntington's disease and I don't know what to do. And he said, you need to call Pam Lowe. And I called Pam Lowe and I told her the same thing. And she said, hold on a second, let me close my office door. And she talked to me for an hour and a half. And she scared the crap out of me because she told me what was going to happen to my wife over the course of time. But she was brutally honest. And the thing that resonated with me, aside from all those things, is she told me, you need to call Dr. Francis Walker at Wake Forest and tell him what you just told me. And I did that and started finding solutions. And so if I hadn't made those phone calls, if I hadn't sought out that help, I wouldn't have been able to solve the problem that presented itself the day after my wife was diagnosed with Huntington's disease. And from there, that phone call, everything over the next 15 years that allowed me to see her through the end of her battle was made possible. And I found solutions, and I found doctors, and I found medications, and I found methods. And the other thing is Jacque fought like hell. She was determined from day one that she was not giving in. And if I was willing to fight with her, she would fight with me, so to speak. So we made a deal. And in a lot of ways, I just wanted to honor that deal I made with her, that if she was going to stick it out, so was I. And it wasn't pretty. And I'm sorry, that's a very long-winded answer to your question, but that's how we did it.
Perfect. I mean, that's so, yeah. I mean, just the fact that you guys, you were so determined and so passionate about, doing it together. And that's awesome to see that.
And I think it brings in a couple like really important moments of, letting others know, like reach out to your supports, like make those phone calls, bug people, call that doctor 20 times because you need that service, or Google, find HD Reach, find HDSA, find any of those other resources, Help for HD. There's resources out there, reach out to them. There's people that do want to help. And you don't know what kind of doors that can open. But also I think it's really hard to even use friends or our local circle. It's like we're just not programmed to ask for help.
Well, that's for sure, Erica. And the thing about that is twofold. There are so many compassionate people who will help you. A lot of people say our society's going down the tubes because everybody is so selfish and everybody is, we're divided against each other, blah, blah, blah. But, day-to-day, person-to-person interactions, you find more good than bad in people. And in the HD community in particular, the people who are either touched by the disease themselves or inspired by the people they see fighting the disease cannot help themselves but be willing to help. And I've seen it for 15 years, and it's inspiring, it's humbling, but it's there. And that's what I would tell people. Jacque and I, when people initially started saying they wanted to help us, we were like, no way, like we can't take help from other people. We weren't raised that way, and it's just not in our DNA. But HD is about DNA and not good DNA, and you got to get over that. And I wanted the best for Jacque in her care, and I knew I would have to put my pride aside and accept the help from other people that is offered. And if people would do the same, they will make it easier for their loved one, but as importantly for themselves, to accept that help and put your pride aside. Because I did it, I struggled with it, but I hate to say this so many people at her funeral were coming up to me and saying, you know, you're such a great guy. You did such a great job. And I kept saying, like, I'm not trying to be humble or whatever the correct term is, but, you know, I had so many people help me in this fight that it was really a team effort. I may have been on point in a lot of cases, but a lot of people picked me up when I needed picking up. And that's because I reached out, knew I couldn't do it alone. And there were so many people who wanted to help and will help. You just got to put your pride aside and consider the fact that I'm trying to do a near impossible task for somebody I love. And if you want the best for that person you love, then you will let others help you, because they will help you achieve the goal that you probably cannot achieve on your own.
So
I know
true.
having the vows in sickness and in health is like, you know, that's what people hold on to, but sickness can be very complex and complicated, and you still can be dedicated and still be tired and exhausted. And your spouse, Jackie, I'm sure was, you know, she did as much as she could for so long.
She
Um,
did. She
but it's
really
like,
did.
this is something that's not controllable. That's not
No,
something that's, you know, anything that she has done. And I think what everything that you're explaining is so, it's so beautiful, because it's like we want to make sure that we can care for her and that she could go as long as she could. And we want to grab onto our supports, because we didn't do this.
right.
So
Well,
just,
and especially this disease. I mean, this disease is insidious, in my opinion, and it's brutal. It's not dignified in the day-to-day care for somebody. You know, if Jackie told me she hated me many times and to go to hell, and it's hard to be a caregiver when you know that's the disease talking to you, not the person you love. It still hurts because it comes out of her face and her mouth. But that's that disease. And so that can really knock you down, especially when you feel like, you know, I've been bending over backwards trying to do my best for this person. And instead of telling me she loves me, she tells me to go to hell or she hates my guts. And, you know, that's hard, but that's HD. And in a lot of other disease presentations, from what I understand, you know, cancer or other, you know, you don't get that kind of bipolar type behavior. And, but you know what? That's also a symptom that says maybe we need to make a medication adjustment. And maybe this is her way of asking for help. Again, it's not her, it's the disease, but that kind of behavior is an indicator there's something wrong here. I need to do something different. And that's what's horrible about Huntington's, is because when you get that kind of behavior or that kind of reaction, but you know, when you learn it's not the person telling me that, it's a symptom, it's a cry for help, it's a need to make an adjustment in how I'm caring. That means you got to dig in even more and try a new approach and go back in and face that kind of behavior and that kind of thing. So that's impossible to do on your own.
Mhm. Absolutely. Okay, I've got a really good question for you. Do you have something that you and Jackie, like, what was your favorite thing to do together?
Before she got sick or after?
Either.
Well, I mean, I guess the whole, the way I think about our relationship a lot, Lauren, is we laughed a lot. And even after she was sick, really till the end, we would laugh. And I would always do this to her. And even on day, you know, when she lost her ability to speak, and really, you know, the dementia took over for her, I would go and see her in her, you know, skilled nursing room every day. And if I gave her one of these, she would do that back to me. I knew some of her was still there. So that smile or that laughter to each other, I think, was always one of our favorite things to do to each other. And even though on some of those days I mentioned where she was, being mean and not a nice person to be around, if I could get her to do that for me, that would make the day worthwhile and let me know, she was still in there fighting.
Think that's the other part of the disease that people don't realize is even when you lose the ability to talk, that
Hmm.
person is still there. Like they're still aware of, and yes, in the advanced stages, you deal with the dementia side of things, but even then, there there are lucid moments, and the person is aware, and I think that's such an important thing that you just brought up. Like you would do that, and you'd know she was there.
Yep.
Um, and
Yep.
I hope people just listen to that and really take to that and remember that
Yes.
people are still aware.
That's a very good point.
Now, can you talk a little bit about Angels of the Abbey?
Sure.
About that.
So Angels of the Abbey was founded in 2009. And basically, it came about because some of our friends from college and our family members on both sides, Jacque and mine, came to us and said, this is going to be an impossible journey you're undertaking. Jacque was diagnosed in 2007. And as I said, Angels came about in 2009. Jacque and I, as soon as she got diagnosed, started raising money for HD. We both worked for Fortune 500 companies. We didn't have any children, so we considered ourselves pretty lucky. And we were doing well enough financially that we thought the first thing we can do to help is to raise money. So we had to help organize a couple of small fundraisers. And at one of those fundraisers in 2009, some of our friends and family came to us and said, that's great that you're doing this for other people, but we want to help you guys too. And because you're going to need money to take care of Jacque down the road. And as I said, we were doing okay in our professional careers. And talking about, that we're raised not to accept help, and we're going to do things on our own. We talked about it and thought long and hard about it. Like, I don't know. Like, what if we take $5,000 from our friends and put it in the bank, and then after Jacque got diagnosed, we decided it's time to start living and doing stuff we want to do. So shortly after she was diagnosed, we went to Ireland because we were always talking about we should go to Ireland sometime. We should go, and we never got around to it. So I'm thinking, well, what if we take $5,000 from a fundraiser, and then 3 months later we're going to Europe? People are going to be like, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? So we said, well, if we're going to do this, we need to form a charitable organization, and we have a board of directors and have no access to the money other than this board of directors decides what they're going to do. We're going to help raise the money, but we're not going to be able to benefit personally from it unless a independent board of directors decides that you can put this money into a trust for Jacque, and that trustee at the appropriate time can put the money towards her care costs. So we went and had an attorney draw up all the paperwork, and got a board of directors appointed and so on. So we started raising money in really 2009. Small fundraisers like at a local bar here in Charlotte, or then one of our friends decided we should throw a golf tournament. And the other thing is during the time we were forming the organization, we had a friend from college who was killed fighting in Afghanistan, and he had a Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Fente. He had a little girl that he never got to see. And so we said, well, if we're going to raise money to help Jacque, we're going to raise money to help this little girl and send her to college. So those two things are really what drove the organization into being, and that's where the money initially started going to. But over the course of time, when things came up like Superstorm Sandy, the Boston Marathon bombing, and things like that, Angels of the Abbey would help that as well. But through the golf tournaments primarily, we started raising some money, and simultaneously HD Reach was born. It was at the time called the North Carolina Center for the Care of Huntington's Disease. And Jacque was doing great, still working until, late 2009, early 2010. But she was home and able to, be on her own and be fine. Even she had been a CPA working at our local utility, so in the nuclear accounting division. So it was pretty intellectually challenging work. So when the cognitive impacts started affecting her, she retired. But anyway, so the money we raised from the Huntington standpoint, we directed it to HD Reach to help that organization becoming what it is today. And in the later years, as Jacque's illness progressed, Angels of the Abbey started putting money into a special needs trust for her, which is what we wound up using at the end of Jacque's life, in conjunction with money Jacque and I had saved to pay for her long-term care. After Jacque had purchased a long-term care insurance policy, and we used all that money that had set aside through that policy initially to pay for her care, and then at the very end to use the funds Angels of the Abbey had put in a special needs trust to care for her. So, and Angels of the Abbey was very fortunate. We got some corporate sponsors, and we have an annual golf tournament in Atlantic City that's been very successful the last few years. Quite honestly, Jacque, as her illness progressed, Jacque would come to the tournaments every year. She affected a lot of people who inspired a lot of people who watched her. They would come to the golf tournament, which was held annually, so it was pretty easy to see the change in her from year to year. And then particularly when she was no longer able to travel up for the golf tournaments, people, and we were honest and open, as I said, and people knew she was getting very sick, and travel was no longer an option for her, and so on. So I think that spurred a lot of people on more to be as generous as they have been, so that they knew her care was getting more and more expensive, and so on. So between the long-term care insurance policy that Jacque had and the money that was in the special needs trust, combined with the money we had saved, we were able to make it work. I don't want to scare people and tell them how much money we probably spent on her care, but it's probably between $500,000 and $750,000 over the course of her 15-year illness. She spent the last 6 years of her life in assistive care. And so, that was very expensive. I mean, at the end of her life, I was paying $10,000 a month for her skilled nursing care. And if we didn't have that money that Angels of the Abbey had set aside, I don't know how I would have done that. I mean, I would have found a way. I said from day one, I would cash in our life savings, our 401ks, whatever it took, to make sure she got the best care. Fortunately, due to the generosity of others, I did not have to do those drastic things. But it definitely impacted us financially. Obviously, spending that kind of money will. Do I regret a single dollar of it? Not in the least. It was money well spent. But we're very fortunate, and we had a lot of resources and generosity available to us that a lot of people do not have. We recognize that, and we're thankful for that. But Angels of the Abbey will continue on, and as I said in Jacque's eulogy, it will be part of her legacy. And our friends are as dedicated as ever to seeing that organization will continue to support HD. It will remain a very big focus of that organization going forward. And you know, HD Reach will always be a beneficiary of that organization. We curtailed some of the generosity over recent years that will be coming again, hopefully. I'm not on the board yet, but I will be soon now that Jackie's no longer benefiting financially from what the organization does. But I know from the board members that I spoke to at Jackie's funeral, you know, HD Reach will remain a big part of what Angels of the Abbey does. And as I said, it's part of Jackie's legacy.
Thank you.
And will be part of mine as well.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, what is your mission now? Like, what would you say your life mission now is?
Well, you know, I need a rest, to be honest with you. You know, HD kicked my ass, but it didn't beat me. So I need to kind of recuperate a little bit from that, but it won't be for long. And, you know, Jackie died on January 19th. Here we are on February 8th. And I hope this video is going to help some people. I want to make a contribution. I want to honor her memory and her fight against HD by helping others with HD. And I know HD Reach is a big way I'm going to be able to do that, just because HD Reach is a conduit to the community of individuals and families who are suffering from HD. And a lot of people helped me over the years, starting with Lee Epps and Pam Lowe and Dr. Walker and Dr. Edmondson on down the line. So I want to repay and pay that help forward. So my mission is to one part kind of heal myself, be well to myself, get away from HD a little bit, but also let HD know that it didn't beat me by helping other people. And I intend to do that. And I will ramp up my efforts as time goes by.
You deserve to rest.
I'm not joining the board.
Hey, I'm not here to do that. All right. You deserve the time.
I did my time.
Well, and I'm so sorry for your loss. Like that is something that's hard for me too. Well, January is, because this was the 2-year, January 12th was the 2-year anniversary from my father's death. So my heart goes out to you. I know how hard.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
I just really keep trying to remember what Dr. Seuss said. Don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that it happened.
Exactly. But you definitely deserve a rest. I mean, being a caregiver is a hard thing. And so, yeah, take time for you. And because the HD community will always be here. So,
yeah,
you know, we're not going anywhere.
Right. Well, I wish you were all going away, because that would mean the HD went away. But realistically, I know that's not going to happen as soon as we'd like it to.
Right.
Yes, I know where to find you guys, believe me, and you will hear from me and Jackie.
We'll always be here, and we'll always be remembering Jackie and the strength that she's shown over the years and everything that you guys have done, because I know you guys have touched and have made so much change in others' lives. And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for what you guys are doing. You're carrying on the torch. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. But thank you so much, Chris, for sitting down and chatting with us. I know everything's still very raw, but I know that you said, if this can help other people, I'm going to do this. Yes. And I think that's so powerful, so incredibly important. And we thank you. We thank Jackie, and we're going to keep remembering her. And now her legacy, her story is within this video, and we just can't wait to share it, to hear your story together. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I hope it helps, and I hope you got some useful content out of this. I know you have full editorial discretion.
You've said that. You haven't said anything too nuts. It's okay.
Well, I know I got a little long-winded at some point.
No, you're good.
But I do look forward to seeing the finished product, and good luck with it. And thank you for letting me be part of this effort.
Thank you. It's our honor. It's our honor to have you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Well, you guys have a great day. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.